Good evening, everybody. Our 75th anniversary will begin momentarily.
We came together for a common purpose. But it was our differences that bound us. When people come together to help each other, to cooperate for a good that reaches beyond themselves, they have the capacity to lift each other up and to grow stronger together. Our values are the inspiration to do what we can to make sure we all prosper together. Founded and strengthened by everyday heroes, people committed to support their neighbors, businesses, communities, and the land we live on. Through their hard work, we are a place where members make change, simply by banking together.
Spencer, you may begin the meeting. Note that your camera is currently off.
Good evening, fellow members and guests. My name is Spencer Newman, and as chair of the VSECU Board of Directors, I want to welcome you to the 75th annual meeting. Thank you for joining us. Like last year, our annual meeting is virtual only. The planning and creation of all required materials for this meeting begins in September of the previous year. A decision on where and how to hold this meeting occurs in November. Due to the threat and uncertainty of the surging cases of COVID at that time, we determined that the safest environment for our members and colleagues was to rely once again on this virtual format. We appreciate your engagement in this format, and we look forward to in-person annual meetings in the future. 75 years ago, VSECU's founding members acted on a spirited notion that when people come together for the purpose of lifting others up, we all grow stronger. Our credit union was formed to provide equitable financial resources so that more people could achieve a better life. We come together from different walks of life and pool our resources for the benefit of all individuals. We are people helping people. Our credit union was formed to provide equitable financial resources so more people could achieve a better life. It is fitting that on this milestone anniversary of our credit union, we can reflect on and experience the living spirit of that one unwavering principle that has carried us through decades of change and growth, regardless of the changing times and challenges around us. So tonight, we reflect on the past year, recognize our success, and look ahead to what is next. We celebrate 75 years of cooperation at VSECU and affirm both our impact and what we have achieved together. Together, we have made a difference in the lives of Vermonters and will continue to do so. Tonight, we will also briefly address the confusion and misunderstanding that has been created by some members. First, to be clear, this is VSECU's annual meeting. This is not a meeting to vote on a credit union merger. VSECU has not yet noticed the member meeting to vote on a merger. The correct information is that the VSECU Board of Directors has approved a proposed plan to merge with NEFCU, a financial cooperative, not a corporation or for-profit banking institution, that is located here in Vermont and has been serving Vermonters and Vermont communities for 60 years. The proposed plan now needs to be approved by the National Credit Union Administration before we can bring it to our members for a vote. It could take as long as 6 months before we receive approval. If approved, the board will call a special meeting sometime this fall. At that meeting, we will have discussion and our members will vote. We continuously engage with our members to listen and learn of their needs and concerns. Our intention is to do just that over the following months, to hear and respond to questions and share the valuable impact of this partnership in a transparent manner. As a member-owned financial cooperative, we uphold and value the democratic member control. Ultimately, you will decide on the value of this proposal, but that is not the purpose of tonight's annual meeting. Because many of you may be here tonight under a false presumption that this is a meeting to vote on the merger, we will take this opportunity to share more with you about this proposed plan. VSECU, this financial cooperative, exists to serve the membership and continuously strives to fulfill the vision of that original spark, a common purpose to work together to help members realize financial independence and resiliency. The plan to join resources with a strong and highly aligned Vermont-based credit union in a true cooperative and collaborative manner where each brings unique programs and complementary services to the table will provide the best of both organizations in one exceptional member experience and increase our ability to make an impact on that vision. The Board of Directors has a fiduciary responsibility to the more than 70,000 members we serve. This fiduciary duty role requires the board to act in good faith and in the best interest of the credit union membership. The VSECU Board of Directors has unanimously voted in favor of this plan to merge because we believe it is in the best interest of our members. We understand the complexity, challenges, and nature of the changing and competitive financial services environment in a rapidly changing world. The world is not what it was 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. The plan is a continuation of building upon the foresight of previous leadership and boards of VSECU, who decades ago understood these same challenges and acknowledged that the present state of the marketplace suggests that the successful strategy of the past will not be the best strategy of the future, as they focused on creating an expansive financial cooperative to create greater access and financial inclusion for more people in our Vermont communities. We are committed to ensuring that our financial cooperative remains relevant for our members today and for future generations. This partnership to pool our resources with another strong Vermont-based financial cooperative, in the same vein as members pooling their resources, will make us stronger and allow us to continue and be better at providing the financial products and services our members want. A lot has been said about change. It's hard, especially when change evokes emotion. We expect that you may have questions about how the merger will affect you. We know that some of you have attended tonight for the sole purpose of addressing the merger. We have time set aside later in the meeting under new business to answer some of the questions you may have and to hear your comments with respect to the merger. That said, please understand that this is the membership annual meeting, the primary purpose of which is to elect directors and hear reports on the activities and financial condition of the credit union. While we are aware there is some misinformation being disseminated by a few members and resulted confusion with respect to the purposes of the meeting, this meeting has not been called for the purpose of approving the merger transaction. Indeed, the annual meeting was planned months before VSECU and NEFCU reached an agreement about the merger. Regarding the election, candidates for the Board of Directors were nominated prior to December 1st. Their statements were printed in the notice and mailed to members prior to the affirmative board vote on the merger plan, an announcement to the membership on the February 23rd. They were called directly on the same day that all members were made aware. They've all stated their continued interest to serve. So, this merger does not affect the elections. Other than during the 30-minute period that we have set aside under new business to hear members, there will be no action taken concerning the proposed merger at this meeting. To be clear, there will be no action taken concerning the proposed merger at this meeting. Both Vermont and federal law require membership approval of the merger by a vote, notice to be made at an annual or special meeting. We fully intend to comply with these legal requirements by holding such a meeting at a later date. The subsequent meeting will be the appropriate forum to discuss the merger and we hope approve the transaction. As mentioned, we will, however, take some questions about the merger at the end of the meeting during the new business section. Throughout the meeting, please also be mindful that the VSECU bylaws describe requirements for the meetings of members, and the annual meeting will be conducted consistent with those requirements. In accordance with the bylaws, the chair shall preside over the meetings of the members, may prescribe such rules and procedures as are appropriate for the proper conduct of the meeting. To that end, we'd like to introduce Leighton DeTora, who will serve as our moderator this evening. I will now ask Leighton to explain the rules and conduct of this meeting. Any procedural concerns and questions can be directed to Leighton throughout this meeting. Leighton?
Thank you, Spencer. In the interest of conducting an orderly meeting, we would ask that you observe the following rules and procedures. The business of the annual meeting will be conducted in the order indicated on the agenda that all registrants receive by email and will include reports of various matters related to the business of the credit union. We will not be considering any other proposals or nominations during this annual meeting that were not otherwise noticed because VSECU did not receive any requests to raise any such matters by any member within the requisite deadlines. To do so would disenfranchise those who may have decided not to attend the meeting based upon the notice and the agenda. Second, the meeting will not be conducted under Robert's rules, as the only matter requiring a vote is the election of directors. Third, only members eligible to vote at this meeting are entitled to submit questions and vote on the election of directors. Pursuant to the annual meeting notice and VSECU voting policy, members shall have submitted their vote on elections by either written or online ballot by 5 p.m. prior to the start of the annual meeting. Next, as earlier mentioned, there will also be a 30-minute period for other questions and comments about the proposed merger, and that will take place during the new business section of the annual meeting. The board and management will make every effort to answer all questions asked during the meeting. However, if multiple questions are submitted on the same topic or are otherwise related, they may group them, summarize them, and respond collectively. To ensure that all members have the opportunity to participate, we will respond to one question or one comment from a single member at a time. We will also limit any member's question or comment to 2 minutes to ensure that we are able to hear and respond to as many member questions during the question and answer period. Next, depending upon the number of questions submitted, we may not be able to answer all questions during the annual meeting. We will post answers to all appropriate questions received, including those questions that we cannot get to during the meeting, on our website. You will be able to get to these questions at vsecu.com when we post them after the annual meeting. Members' views, constructive comments, and criticism are welcome, but please refrain from asking the following types of questions, as they will not be answered. Questions that relate to material, non-public information of VSECU. Questions that relate to a personal grievance, individual personal matters, personnel matters, or a complaint about VSECU's products or services. Questions which are derogatory references to individuals or otherwise in poor taste. Questions that are repetitious of questions or statements already submitted or made by another member. questions that are not a matter of interest to the members generally, questions that are out of order or not otherwise suitable for the conduct of the annual meeting as determined by the chair. And the chair shall adjourn the meeting at any time and for any reason, including disorder, technical malfunction, or any other significant problem that disrupts the meeting. In addition to these rules, the chair may adopt any other rules or make rulings during the course of the meeting as he deems appropriate. The meeting is being recorded by VSECU. All other recordings of the annual meeting prohibited. If you have difficulty accessing the annual meeting, please call the following number, 802-371-5120. Technicians will be available to assist you. We thank you for your anticipated cooperation and for joining VSECU's 2022 annual meeting of members. And now I will turn the meeting back over to Chair Spencer Newman.
Thank you, Leighton. As we are conducting this meeting in a remote and virtual environment, and to help us get familiar with this space, I'd like to invite Oliver Ames, VSECU's social media specialist, to share how to both navigate the platform and participate in the proceedings. Oliver, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Spencer, and good evening, everybody. Very excited to have you all here with us today. So we're conducting this meeting in a virtual format, which means we're using a platform called AirMeet. So if at any point you hear anybody reference that term, know that we're talking about the platform itself that all of you are watching us through. Now, a couple of quick housekeeping items to start about your cameras and microphones. Now, later in the meeting, there's going to be designated times when you're able to ask questions, and part of that will involve you raising your hand, which you can see at the bottom of your screen somewhere. If you're on a tablet or another mobile device, you might have to tap the screen to get that little bar to come up at the bottom. But if you raise your hand, we will, once we get to those sections, we will come to you in the order that they came in. That's how you will be able to participate vocally. It is our virtual podium, if you will. Now, you can also find and download our annual meeting materials at vsecu.com/2022 elections. But as you may have seen earlier in the presentation so far, we actually can send out announcements to all of you. And you can see those by going to the upper right-hand corner of your screen. When I send out an announcement, it should be fairly obvious. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So please be patient while I create it. I've now sent out that announcement to all attendees. You'll notice that if you click that announcement, there is a handy way to quickly get to the annual meeting materials on our website. About halfway down the page, you should be able to see it just fine. Now, if for some reason you don't have a camera and microphone, or maybe you just don't wish to be seen or heard from vocally, you can always submit a written question to us. Now, when it comes time to do a written question, we'll actually pull that up on screen for you on the right side. You may notice that there's a kind of a floating bar over there that doesn't have any information in it right now. But when we pull up the Q&A, you'll see two little speech bubbles, one with a Q and the other one with an A in there. And that's where you can type your questions to us for the meeting today. One thing that's important to note is just like in annual meetings past, our executive assistant, Lori Swanson, will be taking meeting minutes, and she will be recording the names of anybody that speaks during the meeting this evening. Note that the name that you registered for this meeting with will be how your name is reflected in the records. And finally, it's worth noting again that this event is being recorded by us, VSECU. It's also being broadcast on our website. Hello to everybody watching from the website. But other recording of it is prohibited. It's wonderful to see you all. There's 131 people in the session, and I think we are back to you, Spencer.
Thank you, Oliver. I appreciate that. The governance of this financial cooperative would not be possible without the dedication and service of volunteer members elected by fellow members or appointed by the board. Please join me in recognizing the many volunteers who serve on your behalf. Beginning with the board of directors, we have Michael Hogan, Vice Chair, Janet Hallner, Treasurer, Heather Newworth Lovejoy, Secretary, James Larson, Julie Lineberger, Stephanie Mounier, Owen Milne, Norma McElvaney, George Sales, and Carrie Simmons. And the members of the Supervisory Committee, Eugene Westcott, Chair, Donna Ray Heath, and Renee Sullivan. Before I move on, I'd like to specifically recognize Norma McElvaney and Donna Ray Heath for their service to VSECU as they leave their positions on the Board of Directors and Supervisory Committee, respectively. Norm and Donna, we're deeply grateful for your service and guardianship of this credit union's purpose, mission, strategy, and commitment to its members. On behalf of the board, thank you and we wish you the best. The next item on our agenda is the We Care 2 Awards. At this time, I'd like to ask Simeon Chapin, VSECU's Community Impact Officer, to share the results of our member-directed giving campaign.
Thank you, Spencer. The We Care 2 program is one of the ways that we empower members to make positive impact in our communities. In this way, we're enabling them to make this positive impact by directly supporting organizations that they value. Since its inception in 2013, VSECU members have used their votes to direct $261,000 to nonprofit organizations dedicated to improving the quality of life for Vermonters. Tonight, we will announce the voting results and direct an additional $50,000 to bring that total to $311,000. This year, the committee received 49 applications to the program from across the state, from organizations seeking funding to positively impact Vermonters' essential needs in the areas of food, shelter, heat, environment, or financial education. Out of this pool of applicants, the committee selects 5 nonprofit organizations as finalists who are presented to the VSECU membership to vote for the organizations that they would most like to fund. This year, the finalists are Cover Home Repair, Northeast Organic Farming Association of Vermont, Pathways Vermont, Prevent Child Abuse Vermont, and Vermont Recovery Network. All in all, members submitted 4,497 votes through our annual meeting ballot. And on to the results. Pathways Vermont, with $7,824 in giving funds. Pathways Vermont has a mission to end homelessness and provide innovative mental health alternatives. We Care 2 funds will support their Housing First model, which is a proven method to help individuals end their chronic homelessness. Up next is Vermont Recovery Network with an award of $8,041. Vermont Recovery Network ensures that the regional substance abuse recovery centers have the essential tools, training, and financial resources that they need to support people in recovery and their families. We Care 2 funds will be directly distributed to these 9 community-based centers and their programs. Up next, we have Northeast Organic Farming Association, or NOFA, with an award of $10,626. Northeast Organic Farming Association of Vermont works to build a Vermont food system that is economically viable, ecologically sound, and socially just. We Care 2 funds will be used to provide half-priced CSA farm shares for low-income participants, providing consistent, reliable, and dignified access to fresh, healthy food while supporting family farms in our state. Next, we have Cover Home Repair with an award of $10,809. Cover Home Repair organizes volunteers to help low-income homeowners address their most urgent home repair and accessibility needs. Nearly every weekend, volunteers help perform urgent home repairs and weatherization projects. We Care 2 funds will buy building materials for the 80+ urgent home repair projects that are planned for 2022. And finally, with an award of $12,700 is Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. Prevent Child Abuse Vermont delivers proven programming to help kids stay safe and create healthy and nurturing families. We Care Too funds will help these programs reach thousands of individuals that participate in their program every year. And with that, those are our 5 finalists. It's been a wonderful year for We Care Too, and thank you for this opportunity. Back to you, Spencer.
Thank you, Simeon. Congratulations to the We Too Care finalists. And now it is my privilege to call to order the 75th annual meeting of the Vermont State Employees Credit Union. The first order of business is the determination of a quorum. Article 5, Section 5 of our bylaws states that the presence of 15 members constitutes a quorum. Oliver, can you please check how many members have logged in and confirm we have a quorum?
Hi, Spencer. We have 130 people in the session, so we have a quorum.
Wonderful. The chair hereby determines that a quorum of our membership is present. In early February, all members of VSECU as of December 31st, 2021 were mailed notice of this meeting with the date, time, location, purpose, and description of matters for the membership to address. The chair directs the secretary to reflect in the minutes of this meeting that notice of this annual meeting was given in accordance with VSECU bylaws, state statutes, and the VSECU voting policy. Additionally, and as you may know, in the past we've operated under Robert's rules in approving various business items, such as meeting minutes, and executive reports. Since we did not notice this year's annual meeting for that purpose, we will not be seeking approval of such matters via a motion on the floor. Nevertheless, we have provided you with a copy of last year's meeting minutes, as well as the reports of the directors, treasurer, and supervisory committee. The minutes of the 74th annual meeting are included on page 2 of the agenda document for tonight's meeting. As discussed earlier, this document is available for download at www.vsecu.com/2022 elections. This location has also been shared previously during this meeting and with all meeting attendees by email. The minutes are available for your review. Unless there are any corrections, the minutes will be deemed approved. The VSECU 2021 annual report is also available for download and review at www.vsecu.com/2022 elections. The location of this report has also been shared previously during this meeting and with all meeting attendees via email prior to the meeting. At this time, I would like to ask VSECU's Chief Executive Officer, Rob Biller, to share highlights from the 2021 annual report and speak to the state of our credit union.
Great. Thank you very much, Spencer. And it's wonderful to be with all of you tonight. Would like to just spend some time talking about the year that was 2021. It was, as we've referenced before, 75 years ago that our founding members came together for a common purpose. That was to pool their resources together to provide each other more affordable financial options for themselves, their families, and to improve their lives. A lot has changed in 75 years, but the principle of people coming together for a common purpose still guides us today. 2021 was yet another challenging year, frankly, even more so than 2020, the year before. We continued to operate in a volatile pandemic environment where our members and our employees' health and well-being were paramount in our objectives. We also faced significant labor market challenges at the same time, supply chain disruptions which affected our members' abilities to buy the goods that they desired and drove inflation and inflation fears. But despite those challenges, our people remain focused on our members and we remain focused on our people. And at the same time, we hit 2 important milestones last year. We surpassed 70,000 members and over $1 billion in total in assets. That's no small feat for a credit union in such a small state, the second smallest state in the country, one facing increased competition from mega banks and fintech companies across the world, really. We are grateful for our employees for their dedication, their resiliency, their adaptability, but also mostly for their commitment, their continuing commitment to our members. And we're equally grateful to our members for their continued support and kindness in what was a difficult and disruptive times. Values are at the heart of our mission. One of those values being to recirculate capital within and through our communities. Last year, our deposits increased roughly $100 million. That was driven mostly by federal stimulus money early in the year and generally lower consumer spending. We were able to successfully loan out those deposits back into our community. This included 400 loans to business members for $36 million. We're proud to say that included in that was $9 million in Paycheck Protection Program loans, which kept 1,000 jobs here in Vermont. We were also able to make $200 million in mortgages and home equity loans. And our Vermont Platinum Card, which encourages members to shop locally by giving them discounted rates on in-state purchases. Last year, our cardholders spent nearly 50% of their purchases at Vermont-based businesses and saved an estimated $200,000 at the same time. Our V-Green Money Market account funded 100% of over $93 million in energy efficiency lending last year, and our members earned over $500,000 on interest as a result. And we distributed nearly $450,000 to over 80 nonprofits in our community giving programs. We continued the leadership of the Point-to-Point powered by VSECU, which we are very hopeful to have in person this year, and raised an additional $122,000 for the Vermont Food Bank, crossing over $2 million in the 20 years that the program has existed. Another value in action is that we strive to ensure all Vermonters have access to the financial system and have the knowledge to achieve financial well-being for themselves and their families. We have partnered with GreenPass Financial Wellness since 2016 to address member challenges and stresses. Last year, we supported over 500 members to work with an advisor and resolve nearly $400,000 worth of debt through management plans. We also launched our EdgePay debit card a couple of years ago. This is a debit card that has a range of credit, health, and card protections, but it also has a unique roundup feature with a monthly bonus match from VSECU to encourage and incentivize savings amongst our members. More than $50,000 was rounded up last year, and VSECU provided another $14,000 in match savings. Our financial advisors offered 27 seminars last year for nearly 800 members. Topics included Social Security and retirement, Medicare, how to weather a bear stock market, rollover IRA planning, women investing, and much more. And we continued our investments in digital banking, narrowing the utilization gap between our younger and our older members by expanding our video teller machines and implementing online appointment scheduling. And last but not least, our fraud department prevented nearly $500,000 of member deposits from being lost to fraudsters. Well over a decade ago, we made a strong commitment to environmental stewardship and well-being. Today, we are a leader in consumer energy and efficiency financing. Last year, we made 258 home energy loans in partnership with Efficiency Vermont to low to moderate income members for energy upgrades. We provided $20 million in solar lending and another $1 million in weatherization lending, to name a few. We also launched an Energy First mortgage pilot program. This was a partnership with the Energy Futures Group and the U.S. Department of Energy that provided our members coaching, a low interest rate, and preferred contractors to invest in measurable energy cost savings. As a result of the program, we saved the members that participate in it an average of about $1,000 in the annual energy cost. Operationally, 50% of our electricity is sourced from renewable energy sources, and the renovation of our Berlin branch, which is currently underway, will meet Energy Star certifications like those at Rutland, Waterbury, and St. Johnsbury. And lastly, we partnered with the Vermont Council on Rural Development to establish the Climate Catalyst Innovation Fund that supported 20 innovative community-led projects developing solutions that move Vermont closer to its climate and energy goals. And finally, we also believe that our values as an organization must be embedded in our work environment and our culture. Last year, we increased the amount of time dedicated to employee learning and development, allocating 1 hour every week for every employee, or 52 hours annually for every employee to learning and development. We continue to honor and recognize our people who best reflect our values and provide an example to us all, and I encourage you to learn more about them and their stories in our annual report. And we're fortunate and grateful to have been recognized as one of Vermont's best places to work again last year. So in closing, it's been a tough couple of years for us all, members as well as our employees. But together, we not only survived those years, we have become a better organization as a result. So thank you for not only being a member of VSECU, but for the support and kindness that you show our people every day. It matters to us a great deal. Thank you very much. Back to you, Spencer.
Thank you, Rob. You will find reports from myself and the CEO, the Treasurer, and the Supervisory Committee in the 2021 annual report. We will now take questions with respect to those reports. As mentioned earlier, we will address questions related to the merger only during the new business portion of the meeting. Please raise your hand to be called on or write your question in the Q&A. We do not expect to get to all the questions tonight. To help us hear from as many people as possible, we will limit each question to 2 minutes and accept 1 question per participant. The time is now 6:06. Leighton, can you please begin the 15-minute timer for report-related questions?
I will.
Thank you.
Running time.
Okay, everybody. So now is the moment when you have the opportunity to either raise your hand to be brought to the stage or click the Q&A module, which is on the right side of your screen. Spencer, we'll give it a little bit of time here to let people write if they were planning on writing or collecting their thoughts to raise their hand. At the moment, though, we do not have any questions. So with no raised hands at the moment, Spencer, we do have one question for you here. I shall bring that forward and shown on stage and read it out loud. How did we perform on a profitability basis for 2021? That comes from Matt Crop.
Great. Matt, thank you for that question. Terry, would you mind answering that for us?
Actually, Spencer, you want me to take that, or do you want to
Go
defer
ahead,
to Terry?
Rob. Sure.
Yeah. As you'll see in the annual report, Matt, the profitability last year was quite strong. It was buffered, though, by the fact that we had $100 million in asset growth, which put further pressure on our capital ratio. So it was fortunate that we had good profitability. A lot of that profitability came from reversal of allowance for loan losses, which was really a reversal of a very cautious approach we took in the year prior, but we won't get the benefit of that headwind or tailwind, I should say, in the current year. But the profitability was strong, which was fortunate because it allowed us to mitigate the impact that surging deposits and surging assets had on our capital ratio.
The next question that came in is from Giovanna Peebles. I will go ahead and show that on stage, and I'll read that out loud. Curious how many employees we now have. Thanks.
I don't have the exact count at the moment, Giovanna, but it hovers just around 200 employees.
Okay, fantastic. And now we have our very first person with a microphone. This is Stephen Post. I'm going to go ahead and hand him to Mike. Notice that please be patient here, as it takes a couple seconds for everything to catch up and all the audio to synchronize, et cetera, et cetera. Give me one moment here. And Steve, I see you on stage here at the podium. Yeah, you feel free to unmute your microphone at any time and ask your question. Steve, feel free, if you're having a technical problem, feel free to type in the post question area and I'll be able to see that. Note, if you are currently on your iPad, if you tap the screen, it'll bring up that floating bar at the bottom of the screen, and that's how you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you'd like. We'll give you another second right there.
Okay. I think I found it. Am I here?
You are here, Steve. I'll pin you on the stage.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I understand that this is related to the financial reports. And my question that I would like the board and CEO to address is the research that I've done shows that compared to other Vermont credit unions, VSECU has had a low showing of performance in terms of market growth and market share over the past few years. And in particular, I noted that the operating expenses of VSECU have gone higher since in the last few years compared to most other credit unions in Vermont that have lowered their operating expenses as a ratio of assets. So I am wondering how you can address that fact and explain it for us. Thank you.
Great. And Steve, thank you for that question, and thank you for your service to the credit union as well. Rob, do you want to take that question?
Sure. Yeah, I think you can look at those different factors, Steve, a number of different ways. But when we look at credit unions of our size throughout the country, you will see that our expense growth is actually right in line with other credit unions, as well as our revenue growth. And until the last year or two, our membership growth has also exceeded credit unions, or at least been in line with credit unions of our size throughout the country. The particular ratio that you're referring to, the operating expense ratio, involves two variables. Obviously, it involves expenses, but it also involves assets. And depending upon the asset growth and the expenses, you'll get to different numbers. But our ratio has always run a little higher than our peers in Vermont, and in line with many of our peers across the country for organizations our size. So I can't comment on the data that you're looking at, but the data that I'm seeing and reviewing shows us that we're pretty much in line with what our peers are accomplishing across the country.
All right.
Okay.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Steve, for your question. If you have further questions, feel free to raise your hand again. We'll see you later. And give me one more moment here, make sure everything's set. Okay, we do have a few more questions here. These are written, not raised hands. Let me just verify that that's true. Okay, good, excellent. And this is from Dot. And Dot, you have a few questions in here. So I'm going to read them all out loud, but I am going to I can only show one on stage at a time. So I'm going to pull up one on the stage. So that's the only one you'll see, but I'm going to read all of your questions for you here. This is from Dot. I wasn't able to post earlier when this question was relevant. I'm wondering why a vote from the membership requires a quorum of 15 members, which is less than 0.25% of the total number of members, while the board quorum requires a majority. Is this possible to be addressed now? And she apologized for the timing since it didn't feel right in this section or new business. Her point is that the quorum for a membership consideration and vote she believes should be higher, and certainly at least a percentage of the membership.
Spencer, do you want me to address that?
Go ahead, Rob. Sure.
Yeah. Dot, good to hear from you. So that's been in our bylaws for some time. I will have to reference to Yvonne Guerin to understand when that bylaw was put in place to establish that as a quorum. But it has been in our bylaws for quite some time, certainly as long as I've been here in Vermont. But I appreciate your comment, and we'll certainly consider that as we move forward.
Okay. Just looks like Yvonne, did you have anything else that you want to add to that since
Yeah.
you're right here?
Yep. Thank you, Oliver. And thank you, Dot. I just want to make sure that I understand your question. The quorum of 15 members is not the minimum required to vote. That is the quorum required to hold the annual meeting. Any voting matters that we have, our bylaws state the percent of votes that need to be cast in order for a specific topic to move forward. So I just wanted to make it clear that our bylaws do make a distinction between the minimum quorum and the required votes to pass any new action.
Thank you for that clarity, Yvonne. I'm going to unpin you from the stage at this time. Thank you so much. And Dot also expresses her thanks as well. So great to see you always, Dot, on our meetings here. Now, I do want to be cautious of time. I have synchronized my stopwatch here with Leighton's. We have about 5 minutes more at this point. I'm going to give it a second here for anybody to add anything they'd like to add here or raise their hand. And if the time allows, if there are no more questions at this point, we will go ahead and answer these last two that just came in. I think they're very similar. Dot, your question is, what are the required votes? And we have another one here from Bernadette. What is the quorum for voting on any issues? Is the question. And Yvonne, maybe you know the answer to that, but I defer to you, Spencer.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
Yeah. So the quorum is 15 in order to hold any type of meeting, whether it's an annual meeting or a special meeting. When a meeting is convened, then elections or voting can happen if a quorum is met. Even though this is a merger-specific answer and not in the new business, I understand the question that Dot is asking. She's asking, what is the minimum vote or percentage of the vote for a merger vote? And it's the majority. So any vote on a merger, Dot, is passed by a majority vote of those members who have cast a ballot.
Thank you. And of course, worth noting that we will have a designated time to speak about those type of things. So if you have further questions related to quorums or voting or any of that, we'll hold that till later on here. We have one raised hand from Steve, so I'm going to go ahead and hand him the mic. Note, we have no other questions at this time, and we have 3 minutes left. Steve, let us know if you're able to unmute yourself there.
Okay. Have you heard me at all? Spencer?
We can hear you great.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you. No. I have to start again. I know that we're talking about the reports of the meeting, and my question is, why has the board decided to limit the time of engagement with its members during the annual meeting? In my time, we entertained questions from members as long as they had them, and it seems like you are purposefully trying to limit the amount of questions and the amount of engagement that you have with the members tonight.
And Stephen, thank you for that question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, when we're planning this meeting out, we do want to keep to a certain time limit to be respectful of our members' time. We can't have a meeting that runs all evening. We tried to structure the meeting to have different parts of the annual meeting where our members could participate if they'd like to. I think you'll notice by this portion, we've only had a couple of meetings, members with questions, and Steve had a chance to come up twice. But as you know, it's all about trying to run an orderly meeting. And if there are additional questions, you're welcome to type them in. We'll try to answer them on our website. You can also email the board of directors as well. And we're happy to, if we can't get to someone's question today because of the time limit, answer them, at a further time.
Spencer?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you
Steve.
so much.
Appreciate it.
Spencer?
No, Steve, I think we're done with that. And we're actually just about at the end of our 15 minutes as well. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next section of our meeting. Oliver, are we at the time limit?
We have like 20 seconds left. There's a simple question here from Ron, if you want to throw that in. It's the last question that we have. Here's from Ron. Why does VSECU still have an inverted yield curve structure for certificates of deposit?
Well, that I know I can't answer, but maybe Rob or Terry can.
I'll take a stab at it, and if I need to, defer to Terry. But it's the nature of where rates are today, and the nature of essentially how we're funding or attempting to fund the loans that we're making on the other side of the balance sheet. So once the yield curve in general is fairly flat, and we don't typically have, because we only go out, roughly 5 years, if you will, in maturities. That's a relatively flat part of the yield curve, and we frankly have wanted to incent our members to fund the deposits so that we can then turn around and loan them out to members in the shorter end of the curve. So it's an asset liability management objective. It's also a realization of the current yield environment that we're currently operating today. And I see Terry's up. So Terry, if you want to add to that, please feel free.
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay.
Anything to add?
Thank you. The only thing I would add to that is, as Rob said, it's really a function of our balance sheet. We've got a historically long duration of our balances, our savings accounts. And so we really don't need to be attracting longer term deposits. We haven't been for a couple of years. So we've really been focusing on the short end, the 6-month CD and below. So really that's the best, that and what Rob says, really why we have an inverted yield curve as far as our deposit rate right now.
Great. Thank you, Terry.
Okay. I have muted Terry. Always good to see you, Terry. And I have unpinned Rob. And Spencer, it's over to you to continue the meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. Can you see me okay, Oliver?
Spencer, you look very handsome to me. So
okay.
Yeah, you
Just
have
checking.
some nice filter going.
Yeah, it's always important to look good on camera. Now is the time to move on to other matters before us tonight. These include the election of the board of directors. Each year, members of the credit union are appointed to the nominating committee to review resumes and interview members who express interest in running for open positions on the board of directors. This year, the members on the nominating committee were Patrick Brown, Ed Fox, and Roxanne Vo. The report of the nominating committee is printed on page 1 of the agenda. The committee selected the following 5 members as candidates to fill 4 3-year positions open in this cycle. These nominations were made and posted publicly prior to December 1st as required by our bylaws. At this time, I'd like to introduce the candidates. The candidates are Robbie Adler, Michael Hogan, Janet Hallner, Julie Lineberger, and Colin Oyang. As an alternative means of being nominated to serve as a director, our bylaws provide for a petition to be submitted by the supervisory committee by a member seeking nomination. The supervisory committee report, also found on page 1 of the agenda, states that no such petitions were submitted. Therefore, This year, there are 5 candidates for the 4 positions on the board of directors. In accordance with our bylaws and voting policy, the voting period ended today at 5 p.m. prior to the beginning of this meeting. All votes in this year's election have been cast by mail-in ballot or by online voting. Tomorrow morning, the Supervisory Committee will validate and count the ballots sent to the supervisory mailbox and merge that count with the certified results from our independent balloting company, Survey and Ballot Systems. They then certify the merge results and determine which of the candidates have been elected. Within 48 hours of tonight's meeting, the Supervisory Committee will announce the results of the voting and cause them to be posted in each branch office and on our website. In addition to any other new business, we will now address the proposal for VSECU to merge with NEFCU. And is there a slide coming up? Here we go. The boards of VSECU and NEFCU have entered into an agreement to merge into one credit union, united by common beliefs, values, vision, and a fierce dedication to improving the lives of all Vermonters. A combined organization will provide more value to members, staff, communities, and our state than either can independently. The board unanimously approved the merger agreement and recommended that the proposed merger be submitted to the membership for approval upon receipt of regulatory approval. The board believes that the combination of our 2 credit unions, which are both committed to all Vermonters and improving their quality of life, will be good for all our members, neighbors, and the entire state of Vermont. There are immediate benefits to this merger. Members will enjoy access to more branches, additional products and services, and the opportunity for better rates and fees resulting from a more diversified balance sheet. Longer term, the pooling of our collective resources towards our common purpose better positions us for financial strength and resiliency, greater impact, digital security, and sustainable growth in a complex, highly competitive, and increasingly volatile environment. The 2 organizations have complementary strengths. Members will get the best of both organizations and a larger array of products and services to help you achieve your financial goals. These will include VSECU's focus on green lending and environmentally conscious banking, and NEFCU's leading mortgage products that support affordable housing and a greater shared capacity to expand current services and develop new ones. The proposed merger would be a strengthening from within Vermont. 2 strong institutions coming together to better serve Vermonters and our local communities. Over the past few years, we've seen instances where out-of-state corporations acquire in-state institutions, only to move decision-making out of Vermont. In contrast, this merger would ensure the credit union remains locally operated and member-owned. We expected that membership would have many questions about the merger when we announced it in late February. At that time, we set up a dedicated phone line and email to receive and respond to members' questions and concerns. To date, we have received 160 member inquiries. Most are questions about how the newly combined credit union will impact their member accounts. Many members are concerned about losing our identity and values as a Vermont-based cooperative. And thirdly, there's concern about being a larger institution. We value these questions, comments, and concerns. It's important for us to have a shared understanding of what is most top of mind for our members so that we can appropriately address those inquiries to our entire membership. Over the next few months, we will be engaging our members through this process. We are confident that our members will see the value in combining resources through this cooperative initiative. To merge, VSECU members will need to approve the plan at a special meeting later this year. Between this meeting and that time, we will continue to answer your questions and engage with you on the benefits that this merger will create. This path to merge shore up local control and financial sustainability, and enable greater value for members squarely addresses many of the important desires we hear from you, our membership. Most immediately, the biggest complaint we receive from our members across the state is a request for more branches, especially in northern Vermont. Our 13,183 members that live in Chittenden and Franklin County will now have access to 8 additional branches without having to spend a dime on leasing or developing branches. This shores up financial resources for considering future branch locations in more rural and underserved areas of Vermont. We know that affordable housing in Vermont is a challenge. Most immediately, by combining our mortgage operations, our members will have access to first-time homebuyer mortgages, VA mortgages, VHFA mortgages, helping more Vermonters realize their dream of home ownership. Our members have asked us repeatedly for a rewards-based credit card. While sounding like a simple request, the investment in any new product development and systems to support such products is not only costly but time-consuming. Combined, we will immediately be able to offer this popular requested product. Long-term, we see increased concern about cyber attacks and keeping our members' information safe and secure. We see increased competition from non-financial entities such as Amazon, PayPal, Acorn, Venmo, and even Walmart, in addition to the big out-of-state banks entering Vermont and wooing our members away from VSECU and other credit unions in Vermont. And we see the uncertainty of how cryptocurrency could impact our relevancy. By combining our resources, we will be able to achieve the scale, financial capital, and human resources to invest in systems and capabilities that will combat these threats and keep our members safe within the confines of a member-owned and Vermont-based financial cooperative. These are just some examples of how combining our resources will create greater value and benefit for our members without eroding our capital and protecting the financial stability of our credit union, so that you, your children, and grandchildren will be able to rely on us for that first car loan, home, small business startup, safe and secure transaction services, and affordable access to financial products and services. We are people helping people, creating financial inclusion for everyone through our cooperative principles. We welcome any questions or comments that you might have regarding the merger. Please note, however, that this portion of the meeting is limited to 30 minutes, and each person addressing the assembly is limited to 2 minutes. We will attempt to answer every question and respond to every concern raised within this time. Otherwise, we will address any unanswered questions in future communications with our membership. As a reminder, a special meeting on the merger will be called later this year, where questions about the merger will be answered. Please also note that, while new matters may be raised for discussion, we will not entertain any motion or floor vote that was not otherwise properly noticed under Vermont law and the VSECU bylaws. Again, I'd like to ask Oliver Ames, who's managing the virtual platform, to share how we will take incoming questions and comments. Oliver?
Thanks, Spencer. I'm back, everybody. This will take a brief moment. I just want to remind you all how to use the virtual meeting and remind you of a few things about our procedures tonight. So the first thing is when we open the Q&A, that'll pop up on the right side of your screen. You can see that is already available. You can go up there, you can go ahead and put in your question there, and we'll get to it in the order it was received. We will, of course, be giving priority to those people who have raised their hands, and we will also be going through those hands in the order that they were received during the meeting tonight. Remember, this is a virtual podium, and there are hundreds of people watching online, so please bear that in mind as you come to the stage. So I have a few hands here. So the first hand that was raised on my screen was from Matt Krupp. So I'm going to go ahead and hand him the mic.
Oliver, just 1 second, if you don't mind, I'd like to start the timer.
Sure. Yep.
So it is now 6:35. Leighton, if you could start the timer for 30 minutes. Thank you. My apologies, Oliver. Go ahead.
No worries. Matt, you're on stage. Oh, sorry, Matt. We're having a little trouble hearing you. I can see that you're unmuted, and I can see your video, but I can't see, or I can't hear you.
I just wanted to be able to see you.
Can you hear me now?
You sound great, Matt.
Great. Okay, so I have a brief statement. So, the dominant trend in credit unions for the past 50 years has been consistent consolidation through mergers, and Vermont's been no exception. One impact of these mergers can be seen in the decline of meaningful member-driven democratic governance at the vast majority of credit unions, as the identities of their founding groups disintegrated and were replaced by memberships that came to understand their roles as little different than that of customers. After an experience at another credit union that was very much like that, I became a VSECU member because I discovered it to be a rare gem that, with consistent competitive elections, as we had tonight, and an uncommon embrace of its cooperative identity, has not capitulated to that trend. One real reason for that I've come to understand is that VSECU's growth has been, unlike many others where merger after merger, has been through growth of concentric circles. It started with VSEA members, then all state employees, then all state residents, each circle creating a broader reach and impact, but retaining a center of identity. As a result of that, many have come to see VSECU as the de facto Vermont credit union, the place where by joining, we're cooperatively investing in the lives, businesses, prosperity, and economic security of our neighbor Vermonters. So if the proposed merger goes through, that fairly clear identity starts to feel a little bit muddied and maybe doesn't fit. And so the key question for me as we explore this is, who will we be instead? If our credit union, with deep collaboration with New England Federal, can engage members and really present a credible vision, plan, and process to define something new that is this sort of new answer to who we are, then I'm open to supporting this proposed merger. But in the absence of that kind of plan, something that really feels like compelling and that members can equally embrace, I think that the successful path of organic growth and the real Vermont-focused identity that has been cultivated really over decades is more valuable to me than the purely potential economies of scale.
Okay.
So
thank you, Matt.
Yep. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I just want to make sure everyone has a chance to participate. So hopefully I got to the end of your question.
Yep.
I'll take this one. I think that's a great question. And it's definitely something that the board of directors really thought about a lot and took that very seriously when we looked at doing this merger, that we didn't want to lose who we were, our mission, our dedication to our members, and our dedication to Vermont. We spent a lot of time talking with NEFCU, understanding what they were doing and what their mission was. And what we really discovered was that our two organizations were amazingly well aligned in our dedication to all the things that we think are important. And, we really took the decision to do this merger very seriously and looked very hard to make sure that we would be able to continue our mission and, in fact, be a better service to our members by combining. Rob, anything to add to that?
No, I think you answered it well, Spencer. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, and with that, we have another question here. And remember, if you, I'm taking priority here to people who are able to turn on their microphone or video. Looks like we have Steve Post is the next hand raised in order.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? Hello?
Hi, Steve.
Hi there.
We can hear you.
Okay,
we can hear you, Steve, but we can't see you. I just want to make that clear, that we can hear you, but we can't see you, Steve.
Okay. That's probably a pleasure for everybody. I have as you might imagine, I have a lot of questions about this, but I guess I will start with this one, and that is that after tonight's election, there will be at least one, perhaps two members of the board, new members of the board. Will the chair call for another vote on the merger agreement? to determine if the board is still unanimous on that decision.
Can you hear me okay, Steve?
I can.
Good. So the board voted on the proposed plan of merger and voted both unanimously and enthusiastically. The board that voted for that was elected with our democratic principles by our membership to represent the membership. Based on the unanimous and enthusiastic nature of that vote, we decided to move forward with the merger. So no, there will not be another vote of the board of directors. Instead, we'll be focused on communicating with our members, doing forums, answering emails, and doing the work we need to do to get this ready for the membership meeting and membership vote come this fall. Thank you.
Okay. Our next question here is from Michael Diamond. I'm going ahead and hand you the mic, Michael.
Share screen. Can you hear me?
We can hear you great, Michael.
But you can't see me.
We cannot see you.
Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that. As long as you can hear me, I'll pose the question. Spencer, I have two questions with regard to the board process. And then another question, and it may mean that I come back later, having to do with what the members will receive. But with regard to the board process, two questions quickly. One, did the board hire any independent consultant from the credit union industry to guide you through your deliberations in the whole process?
Yeah, we actually have worked with third-party individuals to help us understand the process, think through, the ins and outs of the merger, and understand, better what it would mean for us to combine as a credit union.
And they were independently hired by the board or by the CEO and shared with the board?
It was a shared decision to hire those third parties.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We'll bring you back to the stage should you have further questions and raise your hand. Our next question here is from Stuart McGowan. We're going to go ahead and hand him the mic. And I do apologize if I'm butchering anybody's names. Stuart, we can't hear you or see you at the moment. So just remember at the bottom of the screen, kind of floating down there. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
If you say something,
you can hear me but not see me, right?
That's right. I mean, that seems to be people's preference generally. I don't know. I think I look pretty good.
I think I'm okay. I just re-dyed my hair green again. It's looking good.
Ooh.
I did it specifically for this meeting, by the way. So to make it quick and simple, I just don't understand any kind of controversy going on about the merger. I became, if not the biggest, close to the biggest client of VSECU about 5-8 years ago. And I looked at every single possibility with credit unions, and VSECU was one of them. They were definitely on my list. And there just seemed to be better things for me at the time that Rob and the credit union were able to offer, so I went with them. But I also would investigate a lot with the merger, before it was a merger, and VSECU has a lot of really good qualities that VSECU does not, and vice versa. What I found out was that both of them do some things really well, and so when this whole merger thing came up, I was like, do it. Now we've got a much, much better group of people working together. So I'm curious if any of you want to comment on why there seems to be any kind of problem at all this merger. I think it is excellent, a very wise business move in this environment.
Well, Stu, thank you for that comment, and also thank you for your support of our credit union and for using our services. I can actually understand why some people might question the merger, wonder how it might affect them, wonder why we're doing it. I think it's only natural. And honestly, like myself and the board and management, we welcome those questions because we feel like, as you said, we're doing this for all the right reasons. And we'd love the chance to be able to, explain ourselves and let people know why we're doing what we're doing. But as you said, I think we see just positives all around with this, including for people like you that are involved in the business community, being able to offer more services, particularly in the low income housing side of the market where we're not able to participate at the level we'd like to. And combining with NEFC will enable us to do that.
Fantastic. There has been a number of questions that we have received in the Q&A section, so I'm going to take a pause from pulling up hands. Don't worry, we're going to come back to you and answer some of these questions that are here in our feed. So one question that we have from Susan. A merger of this magnitude takes some time. When was the idea first brought up and by whom?
Rob, would you like to take that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I guess the very first conversation would have started back in early October, initially between myself and the CEO of NEFCU. We both meet on a fairly regular basis, and during that conversation, really kind of started the sort of what if, have we ever thought about discussion, and those discussions progressed between ourselves and then quickly to our boards, and then they took on the movement and the process from there. So back in October, we essentially mutually to discuss the opportunity together it started back in October.
Fantastic. Well, we have one here from Mary Bachman. I will show it on stage. Will the membership be able to vote on the merger question by paper ballot as we do now for board of directors? If not, why not?
Okay. Yvonne, would you like to answer that?
Yes, happy to answer that question. Yes, we will enable both electronic balloting and paper balloting.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Getting to another question here. Hold on one moment, please. This is from Edward Fox. I'm very confident the member-elect board performed their oversight on this important issue. Thank you. I'm looking forward to further information and educational info and/or sessions. Could you talk more about this process? Thank you.
Yeah, Ed, thank you for that question, and I appreciate the support for the process so far and the decision we made. As we said, the meeting to vote on this will not happen until the fall. We probably have a good 5 or 6 months roughly until that happens, so that we're not sure of the exact timing. Between now and then, it's absolutely our intention to communicate with the members through social media, through our website, through mailers. We're talking about having some forums with the board as well, and really just trying to reach out to the people we know to make sure we're able to answer questions and express our enthusiasm and also address concerns that people may have. I know Yvonne is working on sort of a plan for that, so that's evolving, I guess, as we speak, but we absolutely want to hear from folks, and we definitely want our membership to be engaged and feel like they're part of this decision.
Fantastic, Spencer. One note, I believe your camera is currently off. We're going to take 2 more questions here from the Q&A section before moving over to the raised hands. This one from Emily. You mentioned having received over 100 comments via email and voicemail since the merger has been announced. Will you provide a public document that summarizes the comments received and the answers provided?
Rob, do you want to?
Yeah, we'll take that under advisement, but members that provided us with their questions and their comments didn't necessarily authorize us to share their names publicly. So I think that would be my first concern, but let us talk about it internally and figure out how to address that. Even if we don't mention the specific members' names, we will certainly get information out in response to members' inquiries in various formats, whether it's frequently asked questions or other similar types of formats.
May I share some additional information at this time? Thank you for asking that question. As member inquiries and questions are coming in, we are keeping track of the themes and the types of questions that are being asked, because that helps educate us in how we can do a better job of communicating and giving our members the right information that they need. So while we may not have a public document that we'll be able to share, we will be taking that information and sharing it with our entire membership, letting our members know that these are the questions that are top of mind for our members, and these are the answers.
Fantastic. And as promised, one more question here from the Q&A. Don't worry, we'll come back to it a little bit later. And that is from Dr. Eric Jacobson. As a VSECU member, my priority is to keep capital and services within Vermont. To what degree will the dissolution or merger lead to greater support of these goals?
Great. Excellent question. Rob, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, happy to. Both VSECU and FQ are focused on Vermont. And so we're both committed to that recirculation of capital within our communities here in Vermont. You know, approximately 88% of our members have Vermont address. Approximately 84, I believe it is, percent of NEFCU's members have Vermont address. So that is one of the reasons that we believe that this was a strong merger, because we are both focused on and committed to Vermont and the recirculation of capital within our Vermont communities.
Okay, and with that, we're going to go back to our raised hands. Note that we have 4 raised hands at the moment. We will get to as many of these as we can in the next few moments. We've got Michael, then Rachel, then Mark, and then Steve. So let's pull up Michael.
Spencer, going back to the issue of the board's due diligence, the follow-up question after the consultant is, did you ever bring in the senior management team separately from each other and out of the presence of the CEO to talk with them frankly before you made your decision?
Yeah, Jerry, thanks for that question. You know, a lot of this discussion happened in executive session, and I'm not at liberty to talk about that process. I will tell you, we brought the senior team in when we thought it was appropriate, and we've absolutely been seeking their input as we kind of go through this next couple months of trying to figure out how we're going to integrate and how we're going to engage our membership. Thank you.
I have one.
Fantastic. Our next question from Rachel. And it looks like, Rachel, I pulled you up to the stage, but it looks like you disconnected there. Our next question then comes from Mark. Mark, feel free to turn on your camera at this time, or microphone. Oh, there you are. We can see and hear you.
Great. Thank you so much for taking my question. I'm curious as to what other strategic initiatives were discussed outside of merger. Did you look at other options for perhaps combining efforts in other creative ways, as many other credit unions have done through the formation of, say, a QSO for energy lending, a QSO for mortgage lending, something that could help rise the bar for other credit unions as well so that they could participate?
Mark, I think that's a great question. And actually, the board met at a retreat this past summer to talk exactly about that, different strategic options that we might explore. And honestly, doing a merger was not at the top of that list. We talked about opening new branches. We talked about other services we might be able to offer. We talked about QSOs that we could be involved in. We really spent a lot of time, not only at that retreat, but at board sessions prior to that, talking about how we could better serve our members in ways that we could grow and still kind of keep our mission and focus on Vermont. So we explored lots of options when the opportunity with NEFCU came to the table, and we realized that would really help us achieve almost all the goals that we had set out with other initiatives, it became clear that it would be a good path for us to have going forward.
We're going to move back here to the Q&A questions, since everybody currently in the raised hand area is someone who has already had a chance to speak, and we do want to give as many people a chance to speak tonight as possible. So our next question comes from Eric Gilbertson. Has VSECU had to turn down a loan request because of lack of assets to make the loan?
Rob, you want to jump on that?
No, we've never had to turn down a loan request because of lack of assets. We have had to borrow, which is what we do from our members, but we had to borrow from what we call wholesale borrowing sources like the Federal Home Loan Bank from time to time when our loan to deposit ratio approached and even at one point in time exceeded 100%. So we do have plenty of collateral being in the form of mortgages or investments that we can utilize to borrow money on a collateralized basis from the Federal Home Loan Bank. And I wouldn't say it's often, but every now and then we'll use those sources.
Our next question comes from Giovanna Peebles. Can you be specific about the benefits of merging in terms of IT security, products, services, etc.? Please be sure to get this information out in great detail to the whole membership before the vote. Most members are not aware of the proposal.
Great. Giovanna, that's an excellent question, and thank you for asking it. Also, my camera keeps turning off, so I apologize that I'm in and out, but I'm trying to turn it back on when I remember to. I guess what I'd like to do is maybe have Rick answer the IT portion of that question, and then Yvonne, maybe you can answer some of the services portion of that question. Rick, are you able to jump on?
I think so. Like specifically to the IT, I think I need a little more detail. I'm sorry.
Well, Rick, maybe you could just talk a little bit about integration of systems and efficiencies and some of the expenses that we incur for security and sort of our IT infrastructure and how that might be impacted by the merger.
Sure. Well, any merger of this size requires a tremendous amount of work to create integration. VSECU has been in a really strong position for a number of years. I'm not one that ever says that we're 100% secure on anything because we're working each and every day. Technology obviously is expensive and continues to get more expensive as time goes on. But the work to do that, NEFCU is a great organization. VSECU is a great organization. I think the two security profiles of both institutions are solid.
Okay, Yvonne?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Just to elaborate a little bit more with Rick's answer, we now live in this digital ecosystem. The world has changed quite a bit in the last 5 or 10 years. And as convenient as this digital ecosystem is, it also creates vulnerabilities. So we know that we have a responsibility to keep our members' information and accounts safe from fraud and from cyber attacks. And we see that bringing these two strong organizations together will enable us to pool our human resources, our talent, and invest in the capabilities needed to continue to protect our members and NEFCU's members and information as we move forward. Your question about members not understanding the proposal and the details, that's the work that we are now undertaking. Now that both boards have agreed to this partnership and ready to submit the application to the National Credit Union Administration, now teams from both organizations will collaborate and work together to identify the best of both, identify the best of breed that each organization has, and identify, evaluate, assess, and determine which products, which services, which programs, which systems will the combined entity adopt so that we are delivering the best of everything to our members. Those details will begin to unfold over the next few months, And that's the work now that's upon us, is for us to be communicative and help you all understand the value and benefit of combining these resources.
Great. Thanks, Yvonne. Really appreciate that answer. We have about 4 minutes left or so, so maybe time for one more question. Just giving everyone a time check. So go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do now, since all the raised hands we've heard from before, except for Rachel, I'm going to try pulling Rachel up to the stage, and then one more Q&A if time allows here. So it looks like Rachel's having a little bit of trouble getting on here. So what I am going to do is, she did write her chat down, or her question down. So I'm going to share that on the stage. And I'm not going to pull this up on screen because I think that's what's causing your camera to go down, Spencer. What amount of member dollars have been spent to date, projected to spend for the merger? Staff time to date and going forward, dollars and hours?
That's an excellent question. Rob, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I don't have the specific dollars in front of me, but I would tell you that they're not significant within the overall context of our overall budget in terms of actual hard dollars. But the merger is a significant endeavor on behalf of our staff who are engaged in integration planning, because we have to be prepared should our members vote to approve the merger. We actually have to be prepared to merge and the activities that come along with it on what would officially be called legal day one. So there will be a significant amount of time and energy that will be spent by our people throughout the organization, really at all levels and at all locations throughout the organizations. There will be expenses, whether they be legal expenses or consulting expenses, to help facilitate that. So far, those have not been significant within the context of our overall operating budget. But the human investment in time and energy will be significant as we approach a member vote and potentially a actual merger.
And with our time dwindling here, only 2 minutes left, I'll bring this question from Benjamin Huffman up. I trust the merged credit union will find a name that includes Vermont. If not, why?
Good. Rob, I think I'll throw that over to you as well.
Sure. We are committed to work with NEFCU to look at name and what would be a name that would really honor both of our history as Vermont organizations as well as Vermont values. Whether it has the name Vermont in it or not is something that we will absolutely consider, and we appreciate your comment. I'm not prepared to say that it will or it won't because we haven't gone through the process yet, but your comment is very useful and helpful, and we'll absolutely take that under consideration.
Yeah, I will just add that we've talked about the name issue at a board level. We take it very seriously. We know that it is challenging to think about our name, which has been around for 75 years, and changing it. But we also have talked in the past about changing our name, and that's come before the membership before. So this isn't the first time we've looked at our name change. And frankly, there are people out there that think they have to be a state employee in order to become a member of our credit union, and it feels less than inclusive for some people because of that. So, we were exploring a name change anyways. The board has been doing that for a long time, predating myself, Rob, and others who are on the board right now. And this is just another opportunity for us to work with a like-minded credit union and see what we could potentially come up with, for name, and we'll engage in that process in a very serious manner.
Now, given that we have 30 seconds left, there's one last question here from Ryan that I'm going to go ahead and pull up. This will be our final question of this Q&A period. This question from Ryan: why are we moving from CUNA to LPL at this time when there is uncertainty as to what the future will hold with the potential merger with NEFCU, who is not this LPL platform?
Rob, I think I'm going to have to send that to you as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually defer to Yvonne if she is. I believe Yvonne is
Yes,
still with us. Yep, go ahead, Yvonne.
I am. So quite a few acronyms there. Uh, so thank you for the question. I think it was Peter that sent the question. Peter is referring to our broker dealers that we use for our wealth management and investment advisory services program. So CUNA Mutual and LPL, both of them are brokerage houses. It's really what happens behind the scenes. Our members are working with our financial advisors at VSECU. We currently are going through a transition process today where we are converting the back office operations from CUNA brokerage services to LPL as part of a strategic alliance. We're moving forward with that because we believe that LPL, again, back at the house, has a better digital platform and integration system that will provide better customer service to all of our members who choose to rely on members' financial services at VSECU for all of their retirement, investment, and wealth management services. So while we are still working on this merger and just beginning to engage in the integration process, it's still business as usual at VSECU for us internally as employees and also for all of our members who are conducting business with us today. Thank you for that question.
And with that, our Q&A period for our merger information here has concluded. Thank you all for your questions. And back to you, Spencer.
Great. Thanks, Oliver. So the 30 minutes allocated for merger-related discussion has ended. We appreciate the thoughtful comments and questions, and I especially appreciate everyone's respectful and open dialogue. For those that we could not address this evening, we will answer and post those questions on our website. I will now open the floor for 10 minutes for any other new business a member would like to bring forward to the board that is not related to the merger. The time is now 7:07, and Leighton, if you could start the 10-minute timer, appreciate it. Back to you, Oliver.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear out our raised hands here. So if you have a non-merger question that you'd like to ask, you can feel free to raise your hand. We did have, if I can find it again, we have a couple in here that are non-merger related. One of them is about fraud attempts. It's not quite so much a question as a statement, but perhaps it can be answered in the question format. So this is from Eric Gilbertson. He says there's about a $75,000 difference between fraud attempts and those protected. That's the end of your question, Eric. So I'm not sure if anyone wants to answer that.
Rob, or maybe you could just talk about fraud prevention in general and what we do to address
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure I understand the statement or the question, but we do have a fraud prevention team at VSECU that is constantly supporting our members, helping them avoid situations of fraud, or if our members become victims of fraud, to really minimize the damage and the loss of potential funds. It is something that has escalated, I would say, in the last couple of years, but really has escalated every year that I'm aware of for the last 7 or 8 years. And so it's another area where we continue to have demands on our resources, and it's a tremendous service to our members because many of our members unfortunately are the victims of attempted fraud. So I don't know the gap that you're referring to, frankly, but we do our best to try to avoid any losses to our members whatsoever.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm just going through here, looking at these questions, just verifying that we have a couple in here. We do have a raised hand, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up. Actually, let's see. Hold on. Oh, yes. Here we go. My apologies for the delay. So here is from Alfred Blakey. He includes a snippet from one of our articles that concerns dividends, which is as quote, dividends may be authorized and paid on shares and deposits pursuant to policies established by the board and in accordance with applicable laws and regulations. He's wondering, where can he find those policies?
So that's a very good question. The dividend policy is not something that we've disclosed publicly. However, we'll take a look at it and see if that is something that we can put up on our website or share with you after the meeting.
Given that we're short on time here, Spencer, I forgot to start my timer, so don't just shout out.
We're on it.
Okay, excellent. You got it. All right, the next question here comes from Mark. And reminder to everybody, we're going to try to get through as many new voices as we can before coming back to repeat voices, and we will come back to repeat voices if the time allows. The question from Mark, did you find an increase in member utilization of non-branch business post-COVID? And I turned off your camera again, Spencer.
I would, Yvonne, do you want to jump on that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you for that question. Certainly, COVID and the pandemic disrupted member behavior and actually accelerated the adoption of many digital services that we provide. So for VSECU and quite frankly for many other credit union and banks, regardless of the digital strategies that we had over the next 2, 3, or 4 years, COVID catapulted those strategies forward at a much faster rate. So the experience that we've had over the last 2 years is that members have adopted more digital capabilities. We also recognize the need to deliver the same types of transaction and member services without putting our members in a situation that may be unsafe, which is why we deployed more video teller services throughout our branches. And today, as we're starting to see a little bit of improvement with COVID, members are starting to come back into our branches. I would say that the biggest change is that members are relying more on our branch staff for consultative services and are adopting many of the self-serve and digital capabilities for basic everyday banking transactions.
And I'll just add, I am so proud of the way our credit union handled COVID. Obviously, it was a shock and a very difficult situation and a dangerous situation for a lot of people. And not only did we try to give our members the same services uninterrupted and even better than we were before, but I also feel like we really tried to take care of our employees, make sure we addressed their needs, their need for flexibility in what they were doing, and their overall health and kind of mental well-being during the crisis. So I just, to all of our employees and management, thank you so much for everything that you did during some very, very difficult times.
And Spencer, how are we doing on time here?
We have about 4 minutes left.
Okay, so there are currently no additional questions here in the Q&A about non-merger related things. We do have one hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Steve to the stage.
Oh, can you hear me? So I know that we're outside of the grand total of 30 minutes allowed for discussion of the merger. So my question is more related to your voting procedures in general and how you conduct those votes. And specifically, I have noticed that in the past, anything that is being voted on by the members also receives a lot of commentary and advertising in the packet to the members in support of whatever the credit union is proposing. So I am asking tonight whether or not you would agree that if there is by chance an issue that is controversial, will you either not include your advertising in support of it at all, or allow the opposition some equal say in the material that goes out to the members to address any important issue?
Okay, Steve, thank you for that question. Yvonne, maybe you could answer that?
Thank you, Steve. It is something that we have not considered. It is something that we have not done in the past with other type of business voting matters. But I heard your request, and it's something that we'll take under consideration.
Okay, Spencer. Well, at this time, there are no further questions.
Great. Well, thank you. There being no further questions, I call to close the 75th VSECU annual meeting, and we're adjourned. Take care, everybody.